I mean, the other thing is what camera you own, and what kit. You want to be making revenue off your camera kit.
Mm-hmm.
But some jobs, that's not the right camera for it. And do you own every camera under the sun, or are you hiring? And so that means, are you going to be buying the kit for the jobs you want to do most? I guess you do, but the jobs that I want to do most probably can't afford that kit.
Let's be clear, those cameras aren't like a couple of grand, they're like 50.
Yeah, exactly.
So just so the audience knows, we're not talking about the average Joe camera, we're talking about...
Yeah, there comes a point that those cameras very much have as much of a CV that come with them as you do.
The kicker is, though, when you buy that thing, you've got to be invested. You've got to do a mountain of research. You got to make sure that it's not only just a really good piece of kit; it's actually a kit that people ask for.
Yeah.
Because I mean, say in filmmaking, the FS7, the Sony FS7, when I first bought it, nobody was asking for it. A year and a half later, clients were asking for it by name. And when they ask for something by name, that's when you go, okay, that camera's worth it. Or like the C300.
Well, I have a funny problem with the FS7. So when I started out, Landfall, and started doing a lot of productions I was doing work for Al Jazeera at the time, and some other productions, and I bought my first kit, real kit, not just a 5D or whatever I was using at the time. I bought a Sony F5, and I still own that F5 and still shoot with it, and it's a great 4K Super 35 camera. It's really great. The dynamic range is just as relevant to this day, and also with these plug-in things, you've suddenly got 16-bit RAW, or with the R7 recorder or the R5. But you say F5, the amount of times that's been mistaken by the producer as the FS5. Oh, so you shoot with an FS5. Well, that's not quite an FS7. And then you just find yourself stumped trying to explain why your camera's so hot when you know very well your camera's not actually that hot.
Yeah.
It's not like it's an Arri, or if it's anything full frame or anything like that. So yeah, I have this problem. So the FS7 is now a very famous television workhorse. And I have to kind of explain away why I have an F5 when actually it's the big brother to that spawned that camera. And
it'd be brutal if you just bought it and then somebody like Ari or somebody else or Sony or Canon brings out the camera that then people start talking about. So you're $50K out, and then somebody's bought out a new camera and you're like, no, my camera's just as good. So the weighing up, we often talk about, what camera should we buy? Yeah. And my response is naturally, it doesn't matter. But in your space, in the DP space, it matters more in your space than it does in my space. Because I can get away shooting on all sorts of cameras because I'm not shooting that sort of a thing. And owning a camera is different because then you can, it gets rented from you, so it ends up earning its money back. And you go, is it going to get its money back in the first year, 2, 3, 4, 5? And I think that's tough, especially when all this technology is coming out. Like, I mean, even the chat that was being had over lunch about the various cameras that are coming out, and, does it need to be spec'd for Netflix? Because Netflix is commissioning a whole load of new projects. You've got Apple, you've got things like the BBC, because we're in the UK, and you've got a lot of broadcast journalism. What do you want to be? Or do you want to be the guy that just rents it? Which is fine, too. And
that's a full-time job in itself, like you can just renting a camera out is... I tried to set up that page on my website, 5 years ago when I bought all my kit, and it's more than 5 years now. And I just remembered, it would have been good revenue or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's a full-time job pushing that out, and you don't want to be making that a thing. So,
and when people rent things, they treat them differently than when you buy them. Totally,
yeah. And that's the thing, is you can't be going out shooting with kit that you don't know where it was on the last shoot, and can fall over at any point.
So to buy or to rent, what do you do, Daniel?
Well, as a documentary guy, I have to own something so I'm ready to shoot next week, sort of thing. And it is a huge part of my day rate, so it's important to have something that I'm investing in. because I don't think we could survive on just our day rate as the person alone. We kind of need to be turning over other revenue and be smart business-wise and stuff. That's what I was going to say before, is that with the Sony, with the F5, I found myself in a position I actually had to lower the price of it to meet the FS7 because it was just as good a camera. And I'd started realizing that my F5, it's a camera person's camera, but it's no production company is going to care about that. So yeah, if they want to shoot on an FS7, that means they're expecting an FS7 budget, and I'm kind of like, well, I don't want to be shooting on FS7. I hate FS7s. I don't like working with them. But
I don't either, and I own one. Yeah.
Yeah. But they are a much smarter camera to own, aren't they? Because they're so much cheaper, and they're so much, and they hire out for just the same amount, So it's smart.
But this is the concept of over delivering. It's like a job was on the table. It said we needed an FS7, which is lower. It's inferior to your camera. You then come and go, I want to do that job. I want to take on that job. I don't want to shoot on an FS7. I'm going to bring a better camera to the table. I'm not going to try and nickel and dime and fight to get the value of my camera. I'm just going to bring it because it's what I'm comfortable using anyway. And you just go, I'm just going to deliver it. I'm not going to ask any questions or complain. I'm just going to bring my camera, take that rate, do a great job.
Yeah.
There's loads of people that go, like, no way, I need to make sure that I'm getting every single penny out of that camera. But in truth, you want to make the project work. You want to build the relationship with the client. You want to do the job.
Yeah, exactly. At some point, you have to take ownership of being the director of photography and the person who is actually the head of that department and that is making the decisions. And sure, with any producer, you're going to have to sell it through to them, explain it, and that'll never go away. You have to sort of make sure that they know that you're doing the best thing for the production. Yeah. But then, yeah, you do get productions, and it's kind of like they want it shot on a certain camera, and you sort of talk to them, you go, why? And, if it's... Scratch that, actually. Because there's another whole big thing that we haven't talked about, which is what camera are you aligned with? If you own an FS7, you're an FS7 shooter. If you own an F5, then you might be slightly different. If you own an Arri mirror, you're suddenly... You've got a little bit more respect, and none of these people are necessarily any more talented than the other person.
They just have a bigger toy, so they're thrown bigger jobs.
It's not even a bigger toy. It's just, do they have, which club did they join,